Ready for a deep dive? We're unpacking Dr. Myles Munroe's Understanding the Purpose and Power of Woman.
Yeah, it's a fascinating book. It really makes you think.
He tackles some pretty big topics: purpose, power, relationships.
How they all kind of weave together.
Right. And he doesn't beat around the bush. He comes right out and says,
Oh, yeah.
the devaluation of women, it's a universal problem.
Yeah.
Uh,
Across cultures and history, he says.
And he traces it back to, like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
misunderstanding of what men and women are at their
Yeah.
core.
Their inherent nature.
Not just, like, societal structures. He's talking about ingrained attitudes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The way we see each other without even realizing it sometimes. Like those deep down assumptions.
Yeah. He even questions the whole idea of women's rights. Like,
Right.
by demanding equality, are we implying that men are the ones who get to decide what those rights are in the first place?
Yeah, exactly. Like men are the default setting.
It makes you stop and think, huh?
It really does. It's like he's challenging these unconscious biases.
So how do we untangle this?
Well, he suggests going back to the source,
Okay.
back to the beginning, the creation story.
In Genesis.
To understand the fundamental design of men and women, he says, who knows the purpose of something better than the one who made it?
Makes sense. So he's saying we need to understand the maker's intention.
Exactly. And he's careful to say it's not just about
Yeah.
understanding our differences. He emphasizes that both men and women are created in the image of God.
Right. In the image of God.
And God is love.
Right.
So there's this inherent design for relationship, for giving and receiving love. But, he argues, we were also created distinctly different. And understanding those distinctions is key.
That's interesting. So it's both and.
Both and.
Created in God's image.
Yes.
But with these key differences.
Mm.
He uses that analogy of a car trying to function with the tires doing the steering wheel's job.
Right. He's saying men and women have unique roles to play.
Each one's important.
Absolutely. And they work together. He's careful to say this isn't about one being better than the other. It's about recognizing the inherent strengths that each brings. This concept of complementarity.
So how does that play out in real life, in relationships, in our purpose?
He says God created humans for two main purposes: relationship and vocation. Relationship refers to our connection with God and each other. And vocation encompasses the work we're called to do.
Our work in the world.
Exactly. And he believes our design as men and women influences how we approach those areas.
He uses the term enhancer to describe women.
Yeah. He argues that women, in their unique design, they can help men fulfill what he calls the dominion mandate.
Okay.
It's not about competing, but supporting and helping men thrive.
I like that visual he uses. He says a man might be a single-engine plane,
Right.
but a woman is the runway he needs to take off.
It's a powerful image. And it's not just in romantic relationships. He says women have this ability to nurture, to help things grow, whether it's a business idea, a family, even the church as a whole.
The church.
He calls the church the bride of Christ,
Wow.
reflecting and amplifying Christ's nature to the world.
Okay. That's interesting. So you've got this enhancing, this nurturing, this amplifying. He uses those terms, giver for the man and receiver for the woman.
Yeah. But he's very specific about those terms not being about worth, but about a natural dynamic.
Okay.
He says men are fulfilled by giving, by providing, by solving, and women are fulfilled by receiving those things.
Okay.
But receiving isn't passive. He calls women incubators.
Incubators.
They take what's given and nurture it, they grow it, they make it better.
That's interesting. So it's this active receiving.
Exactly. It's about taking something and giving it life.
Okay. So we have enhancer, this idea of nurturing, amplifying.
Yeah.
But then he adds reflectors.
Right. He says women are designed to reflect a man's nature back to him.
So how does that work?
Well, he connects it back to the creation story. Just like we reflect God's nature, women reflect the nature of man.
So it's about helping someone see themselves.
Yes, more clearly, their strengths, their weaknesses, their potential.
Through a different lens.
Exactly. It's about perspective. But it's not passive, is it?
What do you mean?
It's not just a mirror. He's saying it's more dynamic, more interactive.
Okay, yeah. More like a dance.
Yes, a dance. He talks about the importance of a husband understanding his wife's need for love expressed through affection and affirmation.
Okay.
It's a two-way street, this giving and receiving.
It's like this beautiful feedback loop.
Exactly. And ultimately, it helps a man better understand himself and become more like God, which was the goal in the first place.
Wow, when you put it that way.
That's pretty profound, right?
It is. And he doesn't stop there. He takes that reflector idea even further. The church, as the bride of Christ, he says that's a reflector too.
Oh, yeah. Showcasing Christ's nature to the world.
So it's this
The
bigger
picture.
concept of reflection. But he also uses the term life givers
Yeah.
to describe women. And he's not just talking about having children, right?
Right. He's going beyond just the biological. He calls women incubators.
Those incubators.
I know it's a little bit of a strange word,
Yeah,
but it's a powerful image, isn't it?
it is. How do you interpret
This
this?
incredible ability women have to nurture and to grow things.
Okay, so not just literally incubating a baby,
Yeah.
but incubating ideas,
Yeah.
incubating emotions.
Yeah, taking something and giving it life, helping it to develop, to transform.
He even cautions men about this, like
Yeah.
even an offhand comment. A woman can incubate that.
Right. It can take on a whole new meaning.
Yeah. So watch what you say, right?
Exactly. Think before you speak. It's a good reminder of the power of words, how we receive them, how we internalize them. And speaking of differences, this whole giver and receiver thing, he acknowledges that can lead to some communication breakdowns.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like we're speaking different languages sometimes.
Exactly. He says men are more logical thinkers and women are more emotional feelers.
Right, right. He has that funny bit about
Oh, yeah.
the husband coming home from work,
Yeah.
just wants to relax,
They compress.
and the wife wants to
Wants to talk.
download the whole day.
Exactly. All the details.
It's like,
I know. Two different planets. But he's really clear neither one is better or worse.
okay, good.
It's about recognizing the differences, learning to adapt.
So like learning to translate for each other.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. He says men could benefit from learning to express their emotions more,
Okay.
and women can maybe practice communicating their thoughts a little more concisely. It's about building a bridge.
Finding that common ground.
Yes. Understanding. He even gets very practical. He talks about 3 areas of need in relationships: love and respect,
Okay.
conversation and shared activities,
Mm-hmm.
and then affection and intimacy. He says focus on meeting your partner's needs in these areas.
Not just our own needs, but
Exactly. Not just me focused, but we focus.
it's about recognizing that what fulfills me might not be what fulfills you.
Right. We experience things differently. And it's not just romantic relationships, is it?
What do you mean?
This whole idea of seeking to understand, to meet the needs of the other person, that applies everywhere.
At work, with our kids?
Exactly. Our families, our colleagues, even strangers, we're all connected.
It's about recognizing that humanity in everyone.
Yeah.
But speaking of connection, Dr. Munroe, he tackles this big one: women and leadership.
Oh, yeah. He jumps right in. He goes back to the Bible, the example of Miriam. He says God intended for women to be leaders from the get-go.
From the beginning.
Yeah. The question isn't if, he says, it's how. How do women lead?
How do they lead? Okay.
And he talks about this influence power.
Influence power.
Yeah, women often lead in ways that are maybe less visible than traditional leadership, but they're no less impactful.
So it's a different kind of leadership.
Yeah, it's about empowering others, inspiring, nurturing. It's about relationships.
Yeah.
And he doesn't just stick to the Bible. He looks at women throughout history
Oh, yeah?
who've shaped events, who've led movements, even when they weren't in official positions of power.
So it's not about the title,
No, it's about the impact.
the influence.
Exactly. And he says this balance of male and female leadership, this interplay of position power and influence power, it's vital.
Vitals for what?
For fulfilling the dominion mandate, he says, for creating a more just and compassionate world.
Okay. I like that. So he's saying it's not either, it's both hand.
Yeah, we need both. And he's honest about the challenges.
Like what?
He's even calls women strangers in a strange land.
Wow.
He recognizes that often women are operating in systems and structures that were designed by men.
And that don't necessarily value their contribution.
Exactly. He's challenging us to see that untapped potential.
To make space for women's voices.
Absolutely. To recognize the ways women are already leading, even if it doesn't fit our preconceived notions.
I like that. So we've got enhancers, reflectors, life givers, leaders. He also talks about the Proverbs 31 woman. That's a pretty high bar, isn't it?
I know. It can feel a little overwhelming. A wife, a mother, a businesswoman, a philanthropist. It's like, how can anyone live up to that?
Right. It's like we need another thing on our to-do list.
Exactly. But here's the thing. He's not saying we all have to be exactly like her.
Okay.
He's highlighting her qualities, her strength, her resourcefulness, her compassion, her faith.
Okay.
Those are qualities that can be expressed in so many ways. It doesn't matter if you're married, single, a CEO, stay-at-home mom.
It's about those core qualities.
Exactly. It's about embracing who you are, how you're wired. He even calls her a doer.
A doer. I like that.
She takes action. She uses her gifts to make a difference in the world.
To build, to nurture, to create.
Exactly. And it all starts, he says, with a woman's relationship with God.
It all starts with knowing who you are in him.
Yes. Understanding your value, your design,
Yeah.
and then stepping into that, you know?
Living it out.
Yeah. Living it out. It changes everything. It empowers you to be authentic, to use your gifts, your voice, to love, to serve.
It's like he's saying, stop trying to prove yourself. You are already enough.
Exactly. It's that deep need for security, for belonging that we all have. When a woman understands her identity in Christ,
Yeah.
her purpose just flows from that, you know?
It's not something you have to strive for.
No, it's already there. And he reminds us, this isn't a solo journey, is it?
Look at me.
Men and women, we need each other.
Yeah.
We're designed to work together, to partner, to fulfill God's plan.
He paints this picture of men and women not competing, but collaborating.
Yes, supporting each other.
Yeah.
Using our strengths. True partnership. I love that.
It makes you realize how much we miss out on when we try to put people in these boxes, you know?
Absolutely. These rigid roles. Limiting.
Mm.
Speaking of which, I think it's important to acknowledge some of Dr. Munroe's views might feel a little traditional to some people.
Right. Especially when he talks about gender roles.
Yeah, he's coming from a very specific framework.
A biblical framework.
Exactly. But even if you don't agree with everything he says, there's still a lot there.
Oh, yeah. A lot to think about.
A lot to learn.
It's about engaging with the ideas.
Yeah,
Taking what resonates, leaving the rest.
exactly. And I think that's true for any deep dive we do, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're not here to tell anyone what to think.
No, just to offer different perspectives, spark some new ideas.
Get the conversation going.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up Dr. Munroe's book,
Understanding the purpose and power of woman.
what resonated with you?
Yeah, what challenged you? What are you taking away from this conversation?
Keep thinking about it. Thanks for joining us today. Remember, this journey of understanding who you are, what you were made for, it's ongoing.
It is.
And we hope this deep dive has given you some guideposts along the way.